Christ, the reality of your divine presence. Don't get attached to any one word. You can substitute Christ for presence, if that is more meaningful to you. Christ is your God essence or the self, as it is sometimes called in the East. The only difference between Christ and presence is that Christ refers to your indwelling divinity, regardless of whether you are conscious of it or not. Whereas presence means your awakened divinity or God essence. Many understandings and false beliefs about Christ will clear if you realize that there is no past or future in Christ. To say that Christ was or will be is a contradiction in terms. Jesus was. He was a man who lived 2000 years ago and realized divine presence, his true nature. And so he said, before Abraham, I am. He did not say, I already existed before Abraham was born. That would have meant that he was still within the dimensions of time and form identity. The words I am used in a sentence that starts in the present past tense indicates a radical shift, a discontinuity in the temporal dimension. It is a Zen-like statement of great profundity. Jesus attempted to convey directly, not through discursive thought, the meaning of presence, of self-realization. He had gone beyond the consciousness dimension governed by time into the realms of the timeless. The dimension of eternity had come into this world. Eternity, of course, does not mean endless time, but no time. Thus, the man Jesus became Christ, a vehicle for pure consciousness. And what is God's self-definition in the Bible? Did God say, I have always been and I will always be? Of course not. That would have given a reality to past and present. God said, I am that I am. No time here, just presence, pure consciousness. The second coming of Christ is a transformation of human consciousness, a shift from time to presence, from thinking to pure consciousness, not the arrival of some man or woman. If Christ were to return tomorrow in some externalized form, what could he or she possibly say to you other than this? I am the truth. I am divine presence. I am eternal life. I am within you. I am here. I am now. So when, it's very nicely said that it's a Zen-like statement of great profundity. When it starts, this word, I am, starts in a past tense, it has a very different meaning, or it has a very different connect to it. So, when we talk about a general human, or, all of us in general, I am Arjuna Soni, I am father of three, I am this. So, मैं एक present tense में बात कर रहा हूँ. But whereas when Christ said, I am that I am, there is no time in it. So, it's very interestingly said in a lot of places, जब हम I am के बाद कुछ लगाते हैं, generally, that is where the ego is speaking. So, अगर हम ये कोई भी आइडेंटिफिकेशन या एसोसिएशन करते हैं टू व्हाट I am this, I am that, I am, anything external or anything which is in dimensions of time, then that's the ego at play. That's the ego speaking. But if we are talking from the sphere of pure consciousness at play, or Christ ने जैसे बाइबल में लिखा है, I am that I am. That's pure consciousness at play. कोई एसोसिएशन नहीं है, कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है, कोई टाइम, कोई भी प्रेजेंट टेंस या कोई एसोसिएशन, कोई प्रेजेंट टेंस नहीं है, कहीं पे भी कोई ईगोइक लिंक नहीं आ रहा. आई एम दैट आई एम. In general terms, when we use the word I am, we use it कि भैया मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो हूँ, मैं वो हूँ, So what the original notion we had, I am this body, I am this label, this name, and I am this mind. तो सबसे पहले हमने mind पे काम किया, that you are not your mind. And then we worked with the body, you are not your body. And then slowly we got this realization that we are not this name as well. It was just given to us. So then who am I? वो क्वेश्चन मार्क या जो हमने मेडिटेशन की, उसमें जो भी निकल के आया, दैट इज द ट्रू एसेंस. इन केस देयर वाज सम इशू, यू कैन ऑलवेज गो बैक टू दैट मेडिटेशन. बट जब भी एक बेसिक वर्डिंग में जब हम आई एम को किसी एक कनेक्शन में यूज करते हैं, जस्ट अ सेकंड, when we use it with a connection or an association, that's the ego at play. In reality, I am that I am. It is as it is. That's reality. That's pure consciousness. कुछ भी उससे association नहीं है. So who am I? I am who I am. But yeah, again, to discover what exactly this is and the connection with the source, definitely there's a lot of practice and a lot of work required. But in plain essence, it is as it is. No jack. I am who I am. No association. Never personalized Christ. Don't make Christ into a form identity. Avatars, divine mothers, enlightened masters, the very few that are real are not special as persons. Without a false sense to uphold, defend, and feed, they are more simple, more ordinary than the ordinary man or woman. Anyone with a strong ego would regard them as insignificant or more likely not see them at all. If you are drawn to an enlightened teacher, it is because there is already enough presence in you to recognize presence in another. There were many people who did not recognize Jesus or the Buddha as they are, and always have been people who are drawn to false teachers. Egos are drawn to bigger egos. Darkness cannot recognize light. Only light can recognize light. So don't believe that the light is outside you, or that it can only come through one particular form. If only your master is an incarnation of God, then who are you? Any kind of exclusivity is identification with form, and identification with form means ego, no matter how well disguised. Use the master's presence to reflect your identity beyond name and form back to you, and to become more intensely present yourself. You will soon realize that there is no mine or yours in presence. Presence is one. Group work can also be helpful for intensifying the light of your presence. A group of people coming together in a state of presence generates a collective energy field of great intensity. It not only raises the degree of presence of each member of the group, but also helps to free the collective human consciousness from its current state of mind dominance. This will make the state of presence increasingly more accessible to individuals. However, unless at least one member of the group is already firmly established in it and thus can hold the energy frequency of that state, the egoic mind can easily reassert itself and sabotage the group's endeavors. Although group work is invaluable, it is not enough, and you must not come to depend on it. Nor must you come to depend on a teacher or a master, except during the transitional period when you are learning the meaning and practice of presence. So he's very nicely talking about, how the ego is at play and how, the mind can deceive us of all these things. So any connection when you have with who you truly are, with, who am I and who is your true self, if there is any connection with the form, no matter how beautiful it is coming from the ego. अगर हम अपना ट्रू सेल्फ एक फॉर्म में ढूंढ रहे हैं, एनीथिंग एक्सटर्नल में ढूंढ रहे हैं, जितना मर्जी वो सुंदर हो, जितना मर्जी मीनिंगफुल हो, it is coming from the premise of ego, because ego needs identification, it needs attention usko identification se hi aayegi. So anything that is associated with a form which is outside of you, with the definition of who you truly are, of probably your true self, is coming from the premise of ego, if it's from, in any other form, or if it's something which is outside of you. So who you are is actually something which is deep down inside of you. And yes, when you're part of the group, it's good to be a part of the group, especially during the transition phase. But at the end of the day, this realization of who you truly are, this self-realization before the God realization, is an individualistic journey. And in this journey, it can, happen in an extreme situation. It can happen just like that. If it's too intense, in a normal situation, it requires some practice. But yeah, the practice is to let go. So the practice is not to accumulate a new skill, not to accumulate something which is new, but just to let go what you've been carrying for so many years on your back. So in itself, it's very, very easy. But that is figuratively speaking, it demands a lot of your conscious practice. Because बोझ तो उठा लिया, belief pattern तो ले लिए, मैं ये हूं, मैं वो हूं. अब उसको, in terms of, generally speaking, if you picked up 400 kgs of load, so loading them was a difficult task, but unloading them should be a very easy task. But whereas when you're in this journey of spiritual alignment, spiritual enlightenment, loading was an easy task. Because कुछ नहीं किया ना, लोगों ने दिया, हमने तो पकड़ लिया. हमने कुछ उसको वो थोड़ा किया, हमने उसमें कोई क्वेश्चनिंग थोड़ा की इतनी स्ट्रॉन्ग. अच्छा ऐसे बोल रहे हैं तो होगा. पेरेंट्स ने बोला, टीचर्स ने बोला, एल्डर्स ने बोला. We did not have that curiosity to question. And even if we did, probably we were shunned into it, or we were just, forced upon to believe in that. So Even if there was a struggle, it was, given to you, and it was being done like that since whenever, you gained your cognitive consciousness of reasoning, say 7 years, 6 years age से वो start होना शुरू हो जाता है. बट अब हमें क्या करना है, हमें उसको उतारना है. जो भी हमने belief patterns, programmings, जो जो हमारे अंदर ये layers बन चुके हैं, where the true self, which is hiding beneath all these layers. So your journey of spiritual enlightenment is nothing but just peeling off the air, just peeling off the layers to actually realize who you truly are. And rather than live in this myth of this conditioning, of this programming all throughout, that who you actually are. Remember, उसी myth से तो आपका वो ego पैदा हुई है. हमने माइंड को इतनी इंपॉर्टेंस दे दी कि भैया तू तो मैं हूं, you are me, this is it, this is the end of it. That's where the ego came to the mind. Oh my God, I am so important. So it is nothing but unpeeling all your layers so that you are able to realize and probably see who you truly are. What is your true self? So the journey of self-realization of who am I comes first, and then comes God realization, that who is this God, who is this, what is what is this universe, this entire consciousness, pure consciousness, universal consciousness, so many different names. But सबसे पहले हमें वो समझना पड़ेगा कि in the true sense, who is my true self? So that realization is your spiritual journey towards spiritual enlightenment. So the day you are able to realize who you truly are, that is stage 1 cleared. And then, you get to, with more practice and, more enjoyment, I would say, rather than just practice. Because first stage तक वो practice लगता है, वो effort लगता है. Because उस effort में you have this person who is constantly barging you with things, which is your mind. So once the mind is in control and the mind is still, and you are able to look inside of you rather than outside of you, of who you truly are, that pure consciousness at play, that connect with that source, that self-realization of your true self, that is where you will then start dwelling into different, different realms of consciousness. And that is basically what is referred to as raising your consciousness. So once you have to get to know who you truly are, and with that self-realization, you will be able to get to the higher realms of consciousness. So a part of your self-realization is actually the pure consciousness at play. Chapter 6, the inner body. Being is your deepest self. You spoke earlier about the importance of having deep roots within or inhabiting the body. Can you explain what you mean by that? The body can become a point of access into the realm of being. Let's go into that more deeply now. I'm still not quite sure if I fully understand what you mean by being. Water? What do you mean by that? I don't understand it. This is what a fish would say if it had a human mind. Please stop trying to understand being. You have already had significant glimpses of being, but the mind will always try to squeeze it into a little box and then put a label on it. It cannot be done. It cannot become an object of knowledge. In being, subject and object merge into one. Being can be felt as the ever-present I am that is beyond name and form. To feel and thus to know that you are, and to abide in that deeply rooted state of enlightenment, is the truth that Jesus says will make you free. Free from what? Free from the illusion that you are nothing more than your physical body and your mind. This illusion of the self, as the Buddha calls it, is the core error. Free from fear in its countless disguises as the inevitable consequence of that illusion. The fear that is your constant tormentor as long as you derive your sense of self only from this ephemeral and vulnerable form. And free from sin, which is the suffering and unconscious inflict on yourself and others, as long as this illusionary sense of self governs what you think, say, and do. So being is your deepest self. That is there when you get to realize. So there is nothing that has to be learned. There is nothing that has to be occupied. It is only to be realized because it's already inside of you. The whole issue is उसके ऊपर layers लगे हुए हैं और वो हमने लगाए हुए हैं and we are very comfortable with those layers. So, peeling off those layers is slightly uncomfortable because it's part of your belief system. It is part of who we have been, say 40 years, 50 years, whatever your age is, that, this body is you, this mind is you. So now we are getting to know that, okay, this body is not me, but yes, part of a uniform which has been given to me in this journey of life on School of Earth. This mind is not me. He has been given to me to make some valuable decisions and to be controlled in a manner so that I am able to realize the true state of who I am, that true state of being, that true state of pure consciousness, that true state of pure awareness. So you will have these words being used. Somebody calls it being, somebody calls it awareness, somebody calls it consciousness, all different ways. It is just knowing and realizing your true self, your true being, your true awareness, your true consciousness. Look beyond the words. I don't like the word sin. It implies that I'm being judged and found guilty. I can understand that. Over the centuries, many erroneous views and interpretations have accumulated around words such as sin due to ignorance, misunderstanding, or a desire to control. But they contain an essential core of truth. If you are unable to look beyond such interpretations and so cannot recognize the reality to which the word points, then don't use it. Don't get stuck on the level of words. A word is no more than a means to an end. It's an abstraction. Not unlike a signpost, it points beyond itself. The word honey isn't honey. You can study and talk about honey for as long as you like, but you won't really know it until you taste it. After you have tasted it, the word becomes less important to you. You won't be attached to it anymore. Similarly, you can talk or think about God continuously for the rest of your life. But does that mean you know or have even glimpsed the reality to which the word points? It really is no more than an obsessive attachment to a signpost, a mental idol. The reverse also applies. If for whatever reason you dislike the word honey, that might prevent you from ever tasting it. If you had a strong aversion to the word God, which is a negative form of attachment, you may be denying not just the word, but also the reality to which it points. You would be cutting yourself off from the possibility of experiencing that reality. All this is, of course, intrinsically connected with being identified with your mind. So if a word doesn't work for you anymore, then drop it and replace it with one that does work. If you don't like the word sin, then call it unconsciousness or insanity. That may get you closer to the truth. The reality behind the word that than a long misused word like sin, and leaves a little room for guilt. I don't like those words either. They imply that there is something wrong with me. I am being judged. Of course, there is something wrong with you and you're not being judged. I don't mean to offend you personally, but do you not belong to the human race that has killed over so many million members of their own species in the 20th century alone? You mean guilt by association. It is not a question of guilt, but as long as you are run by the egoic mind, you are part of the collective insanity. Perhaps you haven't looked very deeply into the human conditions in its state of dominance by the egoic mind. Open your eyes and see the fear, the despair, the greed, and the violence that are all pervasive. See the heinous cruelty and suffering on an unimaginable scale that humans have inflicted and continue to inflict on each other as well as on the other life forms on the planet. You don't need to condemn, just observe. That is sin. That is insanity. That is unconsciousness. Above all, don't forget to observe your own mind. Seek out the root of insanity there. So, whatever is happening is, all this cruelty, all this killing, anything that is there, which is we can see in this 20th or the 21st century, is all the work of the egoic mind at play. Now, just imagine a situation where the egoic mind is not at play, or it is just, that the egoic mind, the mind is still, and you are in a state of pure presence, pure consciousness. You are in the state of in the now, where the Mool Mantra is, it is as it is, and there is no jack. So there is no jack because there is no mind, and whatever is just a fact. उस केस में how would the world be? It would have been in a very, very different place if everybody had that thought, because in that, then he would not be killing people. Why would he kill people? Why would that thought of being harming the other would come? See, when you're harming the other, there are 3-4 schools of thought. Either that person is a threat to you, that means there is something in the past that is there, and that is why you want to do it. Second, it's that you are abiding somebody's law. Like, for example, you're a soldier, and you're abiding the king's or the ruler, whoever is the leader, his rule ki bhaiya usne bola marna hai to main maar raha hu. ठीक है, बट कहीं ना कहीं किंग का क्या आ रहा है, कहीं से तो उसका कोई पास्ट आ रहा होगा ना, कहीं से तो उसको कोई फ्यूचर में कोई एक्विजिशन करके अपने आप को बढ़ाना है, कहीं उसको किंगडम बढ़ाना है, रीच बढ़ानी है, ईगो बढ़ानी है, कुछ तो करना है ना उसको. So when it is pure consciousness or mind, still mind and pure consciousness at play, the Mool Mantra becomes it is as it is. Because then you are always in the now. आप कभी भी उसको past और future से link ही नहीं करोगे. It's a very idealistic scenario, but yeah, I mean, there are places where it is followed. You go to, all of these Buddhist monasteries where you will find that the tipping point is more than 50-60% of like-minded people who are living in the presence, who are living in the now. And what happens is when you go to these monasteries or when you go to these, people who have attained or who have, uh, realized this true self of theirs, chances are you also feel a lot peaceful, because their aura or the auric field of energy is so vast and so serene कि उनकी presence में भी अगर हम physically जाते हैं and it touches our auric field, we feel at ease. It's so powerful. But yes, Mool Mantra is it is as it is. There is no jack, there is no mind. किसी भी सिचुएशन में अगर आपको कहीं डाउट होता है, be it on day-to-day life, be it business, be it job, just think, am I in the now, or my attention is running in the past, or going in the future. बीच बिचाला मैं घूम रहा हूँ, कभी इधर कभी उधर कभी उधर. Just bring yourself into the now. Is there anything wrong with this moment? सांस चल रही है, बहुत बढ़िया, thank you. So wherever you feel that your attention and your consciousness is going either in the past or in the future, just bring yourself back in the now and ask yourself, anything wrong with this moment right now? See, because even if it is fear in the present moment, the fear is not of the present moment. The fear is of a future moment, which may happen, may not happen, because that's a false evidence appearing to be real. Present moment में नहीं है fear, वो चीज, but हमारे को fear है कि थोड़ी देर बाद ये हो ना जाए. So even if it's fear, that fear is of a future event, not of the present moment. It can never be of the present moment. Fear does not exist in the now, because fear has an association with something which has not yet happened. So it's a false evidence which is appearing to be real. It has not yet happened. So if there is fear, if there is anxiety, that means you are not in the now. Your attention, your consciousness is in the future. So जब आप अपनी attention को in the now लाते हो, in the present moment लाते हो, it is as it is. There is no past association and there is no future association. Finding your invisible and indestructible reality. You said that identification with our physical form is part of the illusion. So how can the body, the physical form, bring you to a realization of being? The body that you can see and touch cannot take you into being, but that visible and tangible body is only an outer shell, or rather a limited and distorted perception of a deeper reality. In your natural state of connectedness with being, this deeper reality can be felt every moment as the invisible inner body, the animating presence within you. So to inhabit the body is to feel the body from within, to feel the life inside the body, and thereby come to know that you are beyond the outer form. but that is only the beginning of an inward journey that will take you even more deeply into a realm of great stillness and peace, yet also of great power and vibrant life. At first, you may only get fleeting glimpses of it, but through them, you will begin to realize that you are not just a meaningless fragment in an alien universe, briefly suspended between birth and death, allowed a few short lived pleasures followed by pain and ultimate in annihilation. Underneath your outer form, you are connected with something so vast, so immeasurable and sacred that it cannot be conceived or spoken of. Yet I am speaking of it now. I am speaking of it not to give you something to believe in, but to show you how you can know it for yourself. You are cut off from being as long as your mind takes up all your attention. When this happens, and it happens continuously for most people, you are not in your body. The mind absorbs all your consciousness and transforms into the mind stuff. You cannot stop thinking. Compulsive thinking has become a collective disease. Your whole sense of who you are is then derived from mind activity. Your identity, as it is no longer rooted in being, becomes a vulnerable and ever needy mental construct, which creates fear as the predominant underlying emotion. The one thing that truly matters is then missing from your life. Awareness of your deeper self, your invisible and indestructible reality. To become conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from the mind. This is one of the most essential tasks on your spiritual journey. It will free vast amounts of consciousness that previously had been trapped in useless and compulsive thinking. A very effective way of doing this is simply to take the focus of your attention away from thinking and directing it to the body, where being can be felt in the first instance as the invisible energy field that gives life to what you perceive as the physical body. So, who you truly are, the true state of being, is something which is inside of you, something which can only be realized, only be felt. But as they say, the body is the outer covering. The body is nothing but a uniform given to us on this school of earth. So whatever is inside of it, so this journey is all about going inside this body, inside our own selves, to realize and to get in touch with the true state of being, or true state of awareness, true state of consciousness, whatever is the word means. There's nothing in that word, but yeah, people refer to it as with different words. So these are all nothing but coverings. So the body, but the true part, the most important and the essential part of this journey of spiritual enlightenment or of discovering who you truly are is to still the mind. So जो हम exercise कर रहे हैं, that we are not this mind. So I would request everybody to please continue doing this exercise. See, because this realization is totally individualistic. Eckhart Tolle, the author of the book, has shown us. I can also just add more of whatever I have read or whatever I have experienced. But that's totally part of who I am. And for you to realize or discover who you are, nobody can do that for you. That is something which cannot be outsourced. So, we can read books, we can take some knowledge, But that realization, that feeling, or that connection with the true self is always a self discovery, or always, it's part of a self realization where nobody on this planet can do it for you other than you yourself. So, a lot of people might be saying, "Ji, hum ye kar dete hain, hum wo kar dete hain." I don't know. I've come across a few videos, part of this journey, but it's not possible. They're all hoax. They're just trying to exploit your fear of spiritual enlightenment and make money out of it. So the true realization of who you truly are is something that is felt inside, and that is only possible and only realized by you yourself. Nobody else can, do that for you. It's like everybody can do all the preparations for your best meal, but that taste of that meal is only possible when you eat it. That flavor, that awesomeness in that food, that energy in that food, that strength in that food is not possible for anybody to give it to you. So whatever is there in your space is just knowledge, is just practical experiences of people, excellent spiritual enlightened people like Eckhart Tolle, and we have all the more, so many others of them. But that true realization of who you truly are is when you eat that food yourself. You can't expect somebody else to eat that food and tell you what was their experience, because that is part of their realization. It can never be part of your realization. So your realization of who you truly are, your realization of your true self, your realization of who you truly are can only be experienced by you, nobody else. People can show you the way, but don't get stuck to that signpost or that direction that we need to go this way. The way is only inside, and only you can do it. Nobody else can do it for you. So it is nothing. If you want to really discover who you truly are, please practice on knowing who you truly are. So there are very nice meditations. One which we did on Saturday, connecting to your true source. Please do that meditation at least once a week, and all the other meditations which we've done. So, see, because the basic requirement of realizing your true self is to still the mind. And in the normal course of our 24 hours, it is only during the meditation that the mind is still. In the sense that there will be thoughts, but if we do not get or start judging the thoughts, and we have our check at play and let the thoughts be, that is when we will be able to go beyond the mind, or have our mind which is at a place where it will not be confusing us in this entire process. But that again is only and only possible when you do it. Because अगर कोई वो खाना खा के उसका टेस्ट आपको डिस्क्राइब कर रहा है, आपके मुंह में पानी आ जाएगा. But that true flavor is only experienced when you taste it yourself. So that choice is with you, whether you want to just know that about that experience, बड़ा स्वाद है, बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है, or you want to actually experience that taste of knowing who you truly are, or that clear experience of realizing or being connected to your true self. Connecting with the inner body. Please try it now. You may find it helpful to close your eyes for this practice. Later on, when being in the body, has become natural and easy, this will no longer be necessary. Direct your attention into the body. Feel it from within. Is it alive? Is there life in your hands, arms, legs, and feet, in your abdomen, your chest? Can you feel the subtle energy field that pervades the entire body and gives vibrant life to every organ and every cell? Can you feel it simultaneously in all parts of the body as a single field of energy? Keep focusing on the feeling of your inner body for a few moments. Do not start to think about it, feel it. The more attention you give it, the clearer and stronger this feeling will become. It will feel as if every cell is becoming more alive. And if you have a strong visual sense, you may get an image of your body becoming luminous. Although such an image can help you temporarily, pay more attention to the feeling than to any image that may arise. An image, no matter how beautiful or powerful, is already defined in form. So there is less scope of penetrating more deeply. The feeling of your inner body is formless, limitless, and unfathomable. You can always go into it more deeply. If you cannot feel very much at this stage, pay attention to whatever you can feel. Perhaps there is just a slight tingling in your hands or feet. That's good enough for the moment. Just focus on the feeling. Your body is coming alive. Later, we will practice some more. Please open your eyes now, but keep some attention in the inner energy field of the body, even as you look around the room. The inner body lies at the threshold between your form, identity, and your essence. Identity, your true nature. Never lose touch with it.